What if Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen had a competitive Pokemon team? This is a video where I make a competitive Pokemon team and Pokemon champions themed around Satoru Gojo. Satoru Gojo, as you may know, is the #1 strongest Jujutsu sorcerer out there. He inherited both Limitless and Six Eyes from his Gojo clan, making him have insane abilities. As a special grade sorcerer, he is very strong. He is a bit peculiar and definitely has scouted additional sorcerer talents throughout for Jujutsu High, which is the school to teach Jujutsu sorcerers. Because he's a teacher of these scouted youngsters, I decided to make his team surrounding some of the Jujutsu High students that he teaches. We're gonna make a team that includes Maki Zenin, Inumaki, Panda, Fushiguro Megumi, Nobara, and Yuji Itadori. Alright, so in this team, we have some shiny Pokemon. Why shinies? Let's just get the shinies out of the way now, because Satoru Gojo is looking for the rare. He's looking for the strong and rare. Okay, so shiny Pokemon are kind of hard to get, but also their aesthetic as shiny Pokemons fit the character that they're being assigned to better anyway. That's why we have some shinies. Your team doesn't have to have shinies. I promise, it's okay. But if you want to copy this team, check out the description. I put the team link down below so that you can rent it in Pokemon Champions, and hopefully it works for you as well or better than it did for me. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the team, shall we? Okay, so we have the most obvious choice for Panda being Pangoro. Pangoro is a very strong Pokemon. The issue that I found with Pangoro is that he's kind of slow and, well, I don't know if he could really take too many hits. So he was built to combat certain Pokemon and to be a counter, but also to assist in other things. Maki was represented by a shiny Aegislash. Maki doesn't really see cursed spirits, and she uses, cursed energy imbued weapons in her technique, but she can't imbue it herself. So I chose the ghost type Pokemon to represent the cursed spirits, but also it's a sword and shield, but primarily we want to use sword as her weapon, right? So Maki uses weapons, and so we chose Aegislash. Aegislash is here to primarily combat Archelodon with Sacred Sword and King Shield. We also gave it Wide Guard because, well, it helps protect your whole team from things like Rock Slide, Surf, Icy Wind, etc. And the best thing about Wide Guard is that you can use it back to back, unlike Protect, and it won't fail. Yeah. Crazy, huh? I know. Did not like that one the first time I found out. But it fits Maki quite well. Now, for a stab move, you could play with Iron Head, but I found that Shadow Claw just hits harder. It has the boosted crit ratio. It's also a stab. So, not being the fastest Pokemon, I think Shadow Claw fits it better than Iron Head, because Iron Head would require you to be faster to get that flinch. And we've chosen shiny Mega Greninja as Inumaki, primarily from design choice more so than its ability, because Inumaki is a cursed speech user, so you could go with a vocal Pokemon such as Primarina or other similar Pokemon like that. However, Inumaki wears something around his face, kind of like Greninja, with his tongue wrapped around his face like a scarf. The black color of a shiny Greninja also fits the whole Jujutsu High outfit that everyone wears, the black jumpsuit thing. Now, normally you would expect a Greninja to be built for special attacking, but in this case we're going to go with the unexpected, which I believe fits Satoru Gojo quite well, is to go with the unexpected. And that's why we built it as a physical. And I keep saying we because I used some of my community's special help here to help make this team work really well and very nicely. So thank you to my community. A special thank you to Danny, Kitsune, and Tomomondo for helping with all of the testing and battling and building of this team. So Mega Greninja, having the Protean ability, makes it so that you can make use of its Protean twice. You could use it once before you Mega Evolve, and then again when you Mega Evolve. So you can technically change your typing twice. Knowing Rock Slide for the flinch, Shadow Sneak for the priority, and Low Kick for also Archaludon and other similar King Gambit, etc. Pokemon. And then a Protect because, well, Protect is always good to have. Next up, we use Tinkaton for Nobara. This was pretty much a no-brainer for me since Nobara kind of seems like she came to Tokyo wanting to do all the cute shopping and being cute, and I think Tinkaton is super cute. But also the hammer. Nobara uses a hammer, if you didn't know and haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen. She uses a hammer to use her curse technique. And Tinkaton has, well, a giant hammer. Teaching it Gigaton Hammer, Fake Out, and Protect makes it a solid Pokemon. Basically, Gigaton Hammer cannot be used in succession, so you protect in between. However, we did put Feint on it. So if you can predict a Protect by your opponent, you can use Feint to break it. Same with Detect. So this is where we're running into funny gimmicks and being a little bit sly with our team building here. And having Feint on Tinkaton is kind of unexpected, but also can help you break through a Protect that you can read happening. And then instead of protecting yourself or something, depending on the turn, or use a Gigaton Hammer, what they would expect is to break it instead. And we're going to talk about Hisuian Zoroark. Now, Shiny Hisuian Zoroark is a really cool design. And the reason why Hisuian Zoroark was chosen, especially the shiny version, is because it kind of reminded me of the dogs that Fushiguro Megumi uses in the show. The other reason is that its ability Illusion fits quite nicely because you could, you know, illusion your opponent into thinking that you're something that you're not. It's also a very fast special attacker. It's the only special attacker on this team, so we'll talk about that in our pros and cons, but it is very fast and it's choice scarfed. Now, Megumi knows Shadow Ball for stab, Hyper Voice for stab, Icy Wind to make your opponent slower, and Psychic to take care of any of those Sneaslers that like to be in the meta teams. While Megumi is choice scarfed, it'll make it very, very fast, but you're locked into whatever move you chose. So if you're running Hyper Voice and now you're up against some Ghost type Pokemon, you may want to swap it out. Whenever using a Hisuian Zoroark, you also kind of want to make sure that you're using your illusion to its max. So if you know you have a lot of Pokemon, or you know it's going to use, you know, if you could read what your opponent is going to potentially throw out, you could bait it with something that might be weak to a fighting type move, for example. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Incineroar, representing Yuji Itadori. Yuji ate Sukuna's finger, gaining the Sukuna living inside his body problem, and instead of being executed on the spot, they're going to use him as bait. So Incineroar has a lot of stripes, in particular on his arms and other markings, which kind of remind me of Sukuna's markings. But the other thing is Yuji is a fighter. His fighting stance is a physical hand-to-hand combat type, and well, if you look at Incineroar, it kind of matches, okay? And so while it might not be a fighting type Pokemon, it's definitely a fighter Pokemon. Darkest Lariat and its Z move, if you haven't seen them yet, kind of indicate as much. So Incineroar is run with a Citrus Berry and Flare Blitz and Darkest Lariat, so that you can have, you know, your stab moves, recover some of your lost HP from Flare Blitz, obviously, but also with Taunt and Fake Out. So we're also going to talk about a weakness of this team being there's no Tailwind or Trick Room, and therefore you need to prevent your opponent from using Trick Room or Tailwind. A great combination to lead with could be Taunt Incineroar with Intim and Megumi using Icy Wind to slow your opponent down. You want to taunt that Trick Room. You do not want Trick Room to go off. And while Pangoro might be slow, same with Maki, it might not go in your favor, especially if you're going up against a King Gambit. So that being one of its weaknesses, I also wanted to point out the fact that, well, 5 out of 6 are physical attackers. You could, of course, change your Greninja to be a special type attacker to increase your versatility a little bit more if you wanted to. I just went with the physical because it's so unexpected, and that's what I would expect from Gojo, right? I expect the unexpected. He's gonna pull some kind of thing out of his sleeve, like some kind of trick. The other thing is, like, you really have no water or ground moves at your disposal. You could, and you can. Greninja obviously can learn all those sorts of water moves, so, you know, build how you feel. This is just how I built mine. It is kind of a struggle when you have a high learning curve. Now, I thought this fit Satoru Gojo quite well, and that's because he's kind of at the top. He's the strongest. He's very experienced. He's well seasoned, right? And so it would take a skilled Pokemon trainer to really maximize usage of this team. But it could also be a downside. You know, it's maybe not the most beginner friendly. And just a side note, I really struggled against Pelipper, okay? I really hate that thing. That thing was so hard against this team for me for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess, I don't know. So, Hyper Voice on Megami and a Thunder Punch on Panda is how I combated Pelippers in particular, because they just, I hate Pelipper. It was not a good fun time whenever I went up against that. But there are some really great strong points in this team, so it's, again, we're going to talk about the unexpected. It's hard to predict. Your opponent will probably have a hard time figuring out what you're running, what moves you're running, because they're not going to be the typical ones that you would see in your typical double battle. Another thing is there are many ways to counter the current meta Pokemon, so there's always going to be Pokemon that are used more than others. For example, Sneasler, Basculegion, Charizard, Kingambit. You know, these are Pokemon that you see quite often, Archaludon in the meta. And so there's a lot of ways that you can counter some of these meta Pokemon with this team. Each Pokemon has great strengths. They're strong Pokemon, right? But the biggest thing about this team is that it's fun. And the whole point of this is to have fun. So this is my team if Satoru Gojo had a Pokemon team in Pokemon Champions. And it works. We did some battle testing. I had some of my community fight against me. I went up against rank battles, and I had my community rent the team and also run battles. And while my win to loss ratio may not be the highest, it's definitely not the worst. It does in fact work, and actually performs better in higher tier than lower tier ranks, just so you know. Let me know if you try this team out. Again, the code for the team is going to be in the description of this video for some time. And if you want to check it out, try it out, let me know if you do. And if you have any suggestions or Pokemon swap outs for his team that you think work better. And of course, if you want to see more of these and you have a character in mind that you want to have a Pokemon team for, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and have fun!